Hey everybody, it's an awesome Friday. We are live. I just like saying that. Sorry, I know I do that all the time because it's just so much fun. It's fun to go live for me. Not everybody feels that way, but for me, it's fun to go live. I enjoy it. I enjoy chatting with you guys. I enjoy sharing with you guys. So something that I wanted to share with you, many of you do or don't know, I used to teach a lot for a really long time. I taught all different ages. I've taught 4-year-olds. I worked in a school where I taught different preschool classes. I taught high school girls. I taught middle school. I was a dorm counselor once in an out-of-town school, in a boarding school. I taught for a long time and I loved it. I don't know, share with me, raise your hand to all my fellow teachers out there, like who's teaching, who taught, what subjects did you teach? So one of the things that was interesting about how I taught is because I taught in different schools, like around the country, around the United States, I should say. I taught in community schools, and so I would teach they would hire me to teach different classes. My favorite was preschool and high school. I used to say as a joke that preschoolers and high schoolers kind of had the same skill level. They would both tantrum. Okay, sort of kidding, not really. But that was my age range. I taught, in the preschool level, taught all those basic skills, and I loved it. And then I taught high school girls. And I was actually in school for myself to finish my degree. And then we moved to Long Island, and then I started doing this, and we're going to get into that later. So I do have a teacher certification for teaching, and I do have some credits towards my bachelor's. Maybe one day I'll finish it just to have something to say I finished it. But I never, and I loved it. And I don't know if you have ever taught, but there is a certain thrill of walking into a classroom, and the kids are so excited. And it doesn't matter to me their personalities. It didn't matter to me what their backgrounds were, because they were in my class and I loved it. And I'm that kind of person, was warm and nurturing. My favorite moments as a teacher were, really just seeing the process of my children, my students grow. And it's kind of fun. Like, I have still kept in touch with some of my students till today. And that's always fun. And, when you teach high school, you have a different energy and you have a different connection with the girls. And that I really miss. And like I said, I do definitely still keep in touch with them. So that's always nice. But one of the struggles that I had as a teacher and stressors, so there was 3 areas, and I'm sure my other fellow teachers can commiserate with me. There were 3 areas in teaching that I really struggled with. The support. I went to teacher college, and then you kind of get thrown into teaching, and you're like, okay. And in some schools, you get this great, can walk into this great situation where people are like, okay, and taking you under your wing and helping you out and working on your lesson plans with you and giving you really great guidance. And sometimes you don't have that. Majority of my teaching career, I did not have that. I looked for it in every school I went to. I would get frustrated. Kids are kids, and you're walking into a classroom and there are different personalities, and sometimes you connect with the kid and sometimes you don't. And you're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this happen? And so that was a little tough. Having those moments of, I need support from the school. And then sometimes, especially as a new teacher, you don't handle a situation correctly, and then the school comes down really hard on you, and you're like, okay, so help me. But you're 20 years old, and you don't know how to ask that, and you don't know how to verbalize it necessarily. You're like so overwhelmed. I legit had that once. I had a bunch of adults yelling at me, and I was like, hi guys, sorry about that. But I had like adults yelling at me, and I'm like, I'm just trying to figure out how to teach. I'm a little 20-year-old pisher. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Which I was only able to verbalize now, years and years later. So that was really hard. And definitely teaching a different subject almost every single year is not fun. It is and it isn't, because I've learned so many different things over the years. So that has its pros and cons. You never get too immersed into something. And then another area that I struggled with as a teacher was supplies. Okay, come on. We know this. There is never enough supplies. Ever. I don't know. At least that was my thing. I never had enough supplies to teach. And because of that, I was always buying things out of my own paycheck to put in my classrooms and to give to my students and to do for my students. Because as a teacher, you almost take on a mama role. You have these kids, especially in the younger grades, you have these kids for like 6-7 hours a day. So you all of a sudden become like, a little bit of a mother hen with them, and you really feel like they're your kids. But even in the older grades, for me, I just wanted to do so much for my kids, and I always found that I was spending extra money, and the teacher salary, where'd it go? What is it? I like that. That's the biggest joke, and we all know that. Most teachers are not paid to the quality of the work they do, which kind of goes hand in hand with my third struggle. So here you are, you're buying all these things, you're spending a bajillion hours, right? I would do these creative projects with my kids, but you're preparing and you're organizing. And some of the schools I worked in, I had this was hilarious. I taught in this one school, and I'm not gonna lie, till this day, when I think of this school, I a little bit shudder, because it was such a bad situation. It was so traumatic in a sense. Like, I got engaged that year, and they were so difficult to work with. Really, the director was never, ever around, but then she was around and she was constantly criticizing. And again, I was 22 years old. And then she would be like, okay, it's the end of the year and you have 5 projects you need to turn in, for the end of the year play that your kids are going to, we had a little end of the year for the parents. We had to have literally 5 projects. And you know what? I was so proud of myself, because at that point I just turned to her. It wasn't in my contract. It wasn't originally. And at that point I just turned to her and I said, you know what? We're going to cut that list down to 3. I'll prepare a slideshow. I'll do, a yearbook, and I'll prepare their portfolios. The portfolios I was working on the entire year, so that I didn't mind. But I was like, everything else, I'm out. And the time and the intensity of what you pour into as a teacher, it is rewarding in the fulfillment and the purpose of what you're giving to your students. But the challenge is that the paycheck doesn't match it. The paycheck doesn't match your hours. And you get to a point where you're like, I'm not getting the support, I'm not getting the paycheck, and I just don't have enough hands on deck, or I don't have enough support, or I don't have enough materials to properly help my kids. So what do you do then? Right? And I stopped teaching around the time I got pregnant with Leia. No, I taught after I had her. I took it like a hiatus when I was pregnant. And then I went back to teaching after that. And I started the school year. I was supposed to teach 22 high school classes a week. They called me up 2 weeks before the year started, and they said, well, the teacher that used to teach, I think it was 14 of those classes, decided that she's going to stay on board. So you're only teaching 8. I said, I'm sorry, I'm newly married, or my daughter was a new baby. I'm like, how does that work? I need to provide for my family as well. How does this work? So fast forward it, I was teaching until we moved to Long Island. And then I took on the project of, fixing our house, and I did it from start to finish. And then I am so blessed that I found my program, and my husband and I lost 94 pounds together. I know it's a lot. It's a whole person, or a whole 2 kids. And one of the amazing things that I love about this is that I still get to teach every single day. every single day, I get to jump on and talk to my clients. I get to talk to you guys, and I get to educate you guys about health. That's an incredible feeling for me. I get to really impact people's lives. The support that I was lacking, I now have that support. I have an insane mentorship team that supports me in what I'm doing and where I need to go in everything. And it's incredible. Today, just today, it was like, okay, guys, system pulse check. I need some help. And it was like, they were all like, okay, how can we help you? I never had that kind of support in any other job that I did. And that was so empowering. And then the last thing is the paycheck. I mean, because we know as a teacher, the paycheck's a joke. This is a funny story. I once called somebody for a job interview to teach in a preschool a few years ago. And this was right before I jumped on Plan, I even think, like a couple months before I jumped on my program and I started helping everybody get healthy. And I asked them, so in the interviewing process, I was like, okay, what's the salary? And I legit laughed when I got off the phone because I was a little more polite. I laughed because I'm like, that's ridiculous. And I actually called her back because it was somebody that I know who runs a school. And I said, that salary is just not going to work for me. I'm a teacher of 10 years. And she goes, well, that's what we're paying our teachers with degrees. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Guys, I want to tell you, it was less than I make now. And you know what? As a teacher, the hours were 9 to 3. And then from 9 to 3, I was going to commute 40 minutes each way. And then on top of it, I would have prep. How does that even balance out? I work for 2 to 3 hours. That's it. And I make more than what she was offering. So, you guys, I love what I'm doing. And I love that I get to share this with you guys. And if anybody is looking for, hey, you could do this part-time on top of your current job that you're doing. You have a heart to help people get healthy, and maybe you want some extra income for your family. Reach out to me. I'd be thrilled to help you and share this gift with you. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a really warm, because yay, it's finally spring and summer, really warm and peaceful weekend. Bye.